Welcome back, everyone. This is your average Jen coming at you from my room. I got kicked out of my chair if you watched the last episode. So good thing I have a folding chair now. I just look much shorter, but that's all right. All right, next episode, resentment and regret. So let me just get to it. Sorry, the cats are being cats and they're just making me laugh right now. So this was Liz G. And I think that after this, I'm going to be all caught up and I can get back to making content. Hopefully, I'll be inspired and hopefully, it'll be awesome too. All right, let's get on with this then. Hi there, and welcome to I'm Only Human, a podcast that attempts to explain how to coexist with other humans. This podcast is going to dive into topics like: is it possible to overcome human nature? Are rules and laws necessary for taming bad behaviors? Or are they simply a control mechanism crafted by other disturbed minds? Why do we fight with each other? How does traditional religion impact us? Can social disease be healed through individual recovery? My name is Jen, and I'm an average human. Before I begin, I would like to state that I will be talking about controversial things such as, but not limited to, religion, God, the Bible, 12-step programs, and politics. I am not an expert, and I don't claim to be one. I'm not trying to promote a particular program, nor am I trying to convert anyone. I believe religion gives us a foundation, and 12-step recovery guides people down a path to self-actualization. Through recovery, healing is possible. I believe that changed minds and attitudes can change our world. Well, good morning, everyone. This morning, I forgot to push record right away when I started talking to Liz about resentment and regret. So I regret not pushing that button right away, but it's okay. I got most of our conversation.
Family of origin played favorites, and my sister was the golden child. And I carried that resentment towards her forever. Well into sobriety, well into adulthood. We're both in our 50s, and she's closer to 60 now. But when I was doing my fourth step, she was very high on my list. And then the kind of abstract resentment of all of the adults in my childhood that failed me because of my particular broken home, alcoholism, child abuse, blah, blah, blah. All of that, I had just a really, really, really hard time forgiving the generation in front of me for their failure to me personally and to all of us kids that were just kind of left twisted in the wind. And I don't remember like some watershed kumbaya moment being so angry with everyone, but I do know that at some point things just got too heavy to carry. And I was trying to think that, what changed? What changed in my program? What changed in my life? What propelled me to let go of being so angry and resentful of all of the people that had failed me? And I think part of it was I'd stayed sober for more than 15 minutes. And I was working very closely with the sponsor. And I don't know if it was during my fifth step or, just hanging out at my spine, pulled out of my behind, because ass head extraction happens much better with the sponsor, just saying. And I was talking about, the fact that my dad deserted the family, and then my mom was so screwed out of in the late 70s, early 80s. He was paying less than $100 a month for 4 kids and child support. And I was so angry about it. Then my mom had no choice but to marry an alcoholic pedophile. And we were just trapped. Her parents were absolutely like, too bad, so sad. And the only adult in our life that could be trusted was my paternal grandmother. And I was like, how can I forgive all of the adults that were around this that were just like, screw you and your kids? It made me so angry. And she said, do you think you ever let down your kids? I have almost 29-year-old and a 13-year-old. And my eldest was front row and popcorn for like the worst of my drinking. He saw more than any 10 to the 14-year-old kid. I mean, I don't remember a ton of the really egregious stuff, but I do remember him pulling me off the toilet when I was passed out or getting me into bed after I'd fallen and passed out on the floor and pissed myself. That's really, really egregiously awful stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And that is regret. That is regret. I cannot undo it. And you can't apologize enough for that because you can't ever make a kid unsee that. And I know that from my experience of being a kid in a real crappy situation. And it was really awful to realize that I was the monster of my son's youth. And that's regret that you can't, for me, I cannot drink over that regret because it's not ever going to change it. It is what it is. And having to take that regret and put it into action in the program to go forward and have a relationship with your kid, that means I have to forgive myself for being human and failing. And if I have to forgive myself for being a jerk, which is not my first choice of words there,
Right.
then then I have to forgive the people in front of me because they were deeply, deeply hurt people who didn't know any different. And the older I get and you kind of hear stuff, I don't know about you, but I like to creep on the old people at the holidays and listen. And especially when they talk about remember when, and you hear about their deeply painful childhood and generational trauma, except they don't know to call it that. They just talk about what it was like. And it's like, oh, you guys really did not know better. And it hurts my feelings that they didn't try to learn better.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, hey, dude, when you learn better, do better. And y'all didn't. And it's like, well, do I really want to be held hostage to my worst day ever forever? And it's like, no, I'm going to have to forgive myself so I can do different working forward. That's regret and resentment for me are a call to action on going forward. You have to forgive yourself. And then the resentment stuff, that's hard. I resented my mom for a long time for marrying an alcoholic pedophile when I was 19 years old when I told her what he had done. And then I held on to that next resentment where she didn't divorce him or, take him to the police or anything for another 20 years.
Wow.
And that's one of those that it slowly poisons your soul. But I also realized that my mother was in an untenable position because her parents were absolutely not supportive or helpful. And they would have thrown her under the bus for what happened to me without holding themselves accountable for leaving her in a position where she had no support whatsoever. And she got really good insurance from this guy. And, when I step back and I take my personal feelings about everything out of it, she was a woman of her time and is a woman of her time and was left with, not any insurance. She's had 3 knee surgeries and a couple of heart procedures, so she ain't great. But his insurance allowed her to do that without being bankrupted in America. And I held on to that resentment for a really long time because I was like, oh, so I was sold out for good health insurance.
Right.
I mean, that's like, dude, if you're going to pimp your kid out, at least get the good health insurance.
Yeah.
But it's one of those that what other choices did she have? And the answer is none. She really couldn't see any other way out. At this point, my relationship with my mom is solid and really good because she was raised by a dry alcoholic with a long shadow of it in her life, and she didn't know different. And she's since learned different. I mean, and as we learn, we do better. And that's really that's a call to action where you have that regret, remorse, you have to learn better. And for me, what does that look like? That looks like, I don't forgive people immediately. I have a long memory and a very spiteful side to me, but I also know that they probably aren't wasting any emotional bandwidth on smiting me further. And so it's like, well, then, I got better places to put my energy.
Yeah, that regret is something else. Because now that I'm older, I'm looking back and, like, my mom's telling me a little bit about her history, and I heard a lot from my uncle, like, I never knew half of the stuff that my parents went through when they were kids and growing up, and it clicked with me. It's like, "Oh, that's why they were the way they were." And it had nothing to do with me at all. But, those scars
Yeah,
are still left behind. It's like you can't teach what you don't have, and then the next
exactly.
generation is left broken, and now here we are with this generation, and everyone's all about, "Ooh, feelings, feelings." It's like, well, not having feelings for all the previous generations is what screwed things up, so let's try addressing our feelings and see if that might change things now.
Exactly. I joke about the fact that generational trauma in my family is a real thing on both sides, and the horde gene runs strong. So if you ever need anything, I probably either have it or know a guy in my family who does. But I joke that I'm the first person on either side in my family that found recovery, and my husband and I are still the only people in both of our families of origin who have a recovery program. But the awesome part is that I'm giving my kids totally new issues. We have broken that generational curse. They're getting new shit.
Oh, yay. New
you
trauma.
know, yes. But my older son has dabbled in the Al-Anon, and he has a therapist, and he is working on his stuff, and he knows that there is no shame in going and finding help. I'm human, I'm not perfect, and I will screw shit up, but it is on me to make amends as quickly as possible, if possible. I have found for me that expediency, the ends justify the means. If it means that I have to see a therapist twice a week and get to 2 extra meetings a week, that's fine. If I have to read more about alcoholism every morning for the rest of my life, that's fine. If you want me to wear a sandwich board every Tuesday and, ring the bell at a certain corner for an hour on every Tuesday, that's fine. Whatever it takes to find peace and serenity is absolutely doable for me. And that's, taking directions, which I'm not real good at.
I don't think anybody is unless they want to learn something.
Different. Yeah. If you do what you always do, you're going to get what you always got. Well, that sucks. Can I speak to the manager? Because that just doesn't seem fair.
Right?
I think that learning to forgive ourselves and to live forward is probably the key to my serenity these days. There are days that stuff comes up and it's just, Mother's Day is hard. I don't know what your Mother's Day was like, and mine was absolutely fantastically lovely. But I still, I stand in the aisle at the Hallmark store and look at all the cards and try to find a card for all the women in my life, my sisters and my sister, my sister-in-laws, my aunts, my mom, my sponsor, some of the women that I'm sponsored with, some of the women that I sponsor. And I sit there and I read all of those Mother's Day cards and I think, some of them are real fluffy, some of them are real sweet, some of them are real snarky, some of them are funny. And it's like, that's really it. Every relationship in my life has layers and is complicated. And all of them can apply to me at any point in my life. And I can't I can't seriously regret anything that has brought me to this place. If I hadn't lived through my trauma, if I hadn't been an alcoholic, if I hadn't, sorry, just beating the cat.
That's
If
okay.
I hadn't, yeah, if I hadn't lived the life I've had, would I be as compassionate? Would I be as soul happy and serene as I am? Would I appreciate what I got? I was looking up resentments, and the antonym to resentments is gratitude. And whenever things get real rough for me, I start doing gratitude lists real regularly. And I remember I still have my first gratitude list from my first time in treatment. And I was so angry. And the first thing on the list was, I'm sucking air.
That was the most
And I'm like,
neutral thing you could come up with is I'm sucking air.
yes, I am still alive. I guess I'm okay with that. Needless to say, it didn't go over really well in group, and everybody laughed at me. And they're like, "No, you're supposed to be like really grateful." And I'm like, "Dude, this is what I got right now." And that's. And I sponsor a couple of women. I've got a couple of women in my life that I really, really adore, and I have one that has a lot of mornings where it's I'm sucking air is the start. It's like, well, hang in there because it's a start. And if you're alive, there's still hope. And if you're sober, there's still hope. That's really it.
That is, but when someone's like in the pits of like their shame spiral or depression spiral, it's so hard to pull out of that. Like, do you have
Oh
any
yeah.
things that you do when you're like in that state of mind to help pull yourself out, or do you just have to ride it out?
I've done both. Usually for me, I will call my sponsor and I'll whine. And she is really terrific about taking action. Go for a walk around the block. Just start there if you can. If you're at work and it's really rough, go find a quiet place, say the third step prayer, and then reach out to somebody else in the program or out that you know is having a bad day. And just ask them how they're doing and shut up. You're not allowed to talk about your garbage. Because for me, if I keep verbalizing my shame spiral and the stuff that I'm really marinating on that's just eating my lunch, I make it bigger. The more I retell the story, the worse it gets. And I'm not saying that I shouldn't talk about it because I absolutely should. I cannot hold that stuff in. But if I start reaching out and focusing on other people and calling and saying, hey, how was your day? Even if it's a 5-minute conversation or less, or text a friend, that's starting to see that whatever this is that's awful that I'm remembering and having to deal with.
If you're resentful because you're the only one in your family who's in recovery, does that hold resentments like everyone else is still doing all the same stuff and
All
here
their
you are?
shenanigans. Probably the first 3 Christmases when they were doing Tom and Jerry's and Hot Toddies and all the like fun bougie shit that I never got to do. Because I did not get to do the fun bougie booze. I did, the cheap shitty booze. It's funny because it doesn't bother me much anymore, but it used to. Um, Last night, my older brother lives in Door County, and my younger brother's here in town. And my older brother is down for the weekend for an event we've got later today. And I went over there last night and hung out for a little bit with my dog and my husband, and everybody was having beers, and they were breaking out the good stuff. I could see the Crown Royal and all the other whatever in the house, and they were bringing out cocktails and stuff. And it just doesn't appeal to me. And I know that my brothers can drink normally. I mean, they probably come closer to the edge. I'm not taking anybody's inventory or judging them, but I know that they don't like to drink around my husband and I as much. They know we're not uncomfortable with it, and so they'll have a beer, but they don't get like sloppy drunk and stupid like they used to in our youth. So I guess I don't resent it. I resent that I live in Wisconsin and there's this huge drinking culture and people get real freaking weird when you tell them, no, no thanks, I don't drink. That's weird. It used to make me really irritated that I couldn't just drink like that. The longer I'm sober and the more I hang around sober people, I have found my tribal weirdos. And if that's their tribal weirdos, that's totally fine.
We all need our own group of weirdos.
Exactly. I could be chief weirdo. I got the costume for that.
So like in the culture today, like I mean I can drink normally if I want to. I don't like how it feels anymore, not like in my younger years when I was a heavy drinker, but the way that
Yeah.
alcohol is pushed in today's society, it's like I now that I'm older, it's like I don't understand why it's being pushed so much because it's
because it's a
so
billion
unhealthy.
dollar industry. Yeah, it's a billion-dollar industry. Dude, I remember Virginia Slims. You've come a long way, baby. You know, it's a billion-dollar industry.
I
And
suppose, yeah.
Wisconsin, yeah, Wisconsin is a joke about every intersection in any city in Wisconsin. You've got three churches and a bar, or three bars and a churches and a church, and
Pretty
that's
much,
really
yeah.
it. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the heavy duty drinking culture, but I have noticed, like when I was in high school, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, every weekend everybody had like some bonfire, someplace to go to drink. And I did not partake in that stuff in high school because I was living in a house with active alcoholism and I wasn't going to drink like that. Joke's on me. I got to write my story a little later, but I don't see that prevalence. I'm sure it's still there. I just, because I work at a university, so I see a lot of young adults, and I can tell the people that go for those kinds of shenanigans and then the people who are just avoiding them. And I guess that's it, is that it doesn't seem to have the quiet social acceptance that it did when I was younger. There's a lot more awareness of this could be damaging to your health, and but all the advertising says you can only have a good time if alcohol's involved. It's like, well, that's not really true.
No, it's not really true. I've had plenty of good times drinking regular seltzer water or regular tap water.
Oh God, yeah. I'm I'm a big fan of the Arnold Palmer
Okay, yeah.
lemonade and iced tea. You order
Yeah.
that in a bar, and everyone leaves you alone because they don't know what it is.
That
But
makes sense, yeah. Usually when I go out to a bar, it's like I feel obligated. It's like, fine, I'll have a White Claw or 2. But it's
yeah,
like I don't drink to get drunk, not like in my younger years. 'Cause
exactly,
I don't like that feeling anymore, which is I guess that's a blessing because that stuff's
yeah,
bad for me.
exactly. Okay, am I the only person that's old enough to think that, oh, White Claw, it's like Zima 2.0?
Maybe. I think of
Yeah,
it more, it's like, well, it's maybe a little less fattening because it's seltzer, but I mean, it's still, I
yeah.
think, like 100 or 200 calories.
Oh yeah. I do not miss the beer, the bloat from all the alcohol. Do not miss that at all.
Like every now and then I'll crave a beer with a hamburger or something like that, but it's like just one, that's all I need. And I know that sounds foreign to people who are
Yeah,
alcoholic. It's like, how can you just have one or a half of one and dump
exactly.
it out? It's like, I,
It's abusive, really.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think my family member thought I was abusing my alcohol, so he drank it for me.
there you go. Yeah, it's fun for my husband and I. When we first met, we were working together at a retail place here in Waukesha, and we finally outed each other as both being in recovery because we met at work but never were at the same meetings. And it was like a Saturday morning, and somebody made a comment about, yeah, we should do some Jack, and the Cokes here, because it was a kind of a rough day. And I kind of snickered under my breath, lightweight. Why would you water it down? Just drink it straight. Be a man. And my husband laughed at me. And we still joke about that. But it's like, yeah, I have drank more than my fair share, so I'm good. I don't need any more.
Been there, done that, experienced it. It's time to experience different things now.
Exactly. Exactly. I I am grateful that I learned to set down the things that were simply too heavy to carry. Don't get me wrong, I pick up all sorts of crap that I shouldn't. But I was joking with my sponsor earlier this week about it's like training a puppy. Drop it, leave it, leave it. And that's really it. Resentment, and I have somebody at work who gets on my ever loving nerves. She's super competent, super smart, and just awesome. But I know I'm just as aggravating to her some days. But to take offense and then hold it. To take offense, you have to decide to pick it up and be offended by whatever they're saying to you. Even if offense wasn't meant, you have to take it, like physically take the offense and decide you're going to be offended and mad about it. And then the resentment is not setting it down quickly. I don't want to be that tied to anybody except for the people I love. I don't want to carry the people who have chapped my ass over the years or that I've chapped their ass over the years. I don't want to carry that with me anymore. The older I get, the more I just want to live and let live and let love. My relationships with people are easier when there's not that landmine field between us of, if one of us missteps, who's going to explode in anger, rage, whatever, and completely burn this to the ground. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you find it hard to be around people who are just so stuck in their resentments and they just complain about the same thing day in, day out, and they never do anything to change it? Because I have people in my life like that, and it's like I can totally see what the
Oh
issue
yeah,
is, but they have no idea, and I can't tell them
and
because I don't want to.
they just can't. Yeah, you don't want to hurt them. You
Right.
know.
It's like they're not willing to accept that their thoughts and actions are the main problem
Yeah.
of their anger and resentment. It's like, because the same
Yes.
thing keeps repeating itself and you keep getting angry about it. It's like, what can you do differently? That's how I think of to myself now. It's like, if I keep getting mad about this, what can I do differently this time? So maybe I won't get
Exactly.
mad.
I have a few people like that in my life. Like, oh, what do you mean I get the consequences to my very, very specific actions? You mean I get consequences for that? Hang on, this is the same consequences as what I did it the last time.
Oh,
Oh, this is
no.
horrible. Patience, tolerance, and give myself a lot of grace to not be responsible for managing their emotional upset, because I am very prone to think that I know better and I know right for everybody around me. And let's be real, I'm an alcoholic. So the answer is probably not. But my brain will still tell me that I can see a very simple solution to what you've got going on, but it is not my job to be judge, jury, and executioner. And I have never been shamed into better behavior. I have only been loved into better behavior. And as far as that tying into resentments, and for people who are just whirling in their shit around me, um, give myself an emotional buffer zone for sure if they're really, really grinding down on me. I have a couple of people I'll turn on notifications for a couple of days because I just can't be bombarded with their same situation over and over and over again, because they're using me as their emotional crutch. And that's fine for some things, but for other things, it's like, no, I really can't be that available right now. And love them where they're at. I firmly believe that the divine architect is playing the long game, and they will know when they will know. And it's not my job to be judge, jury, and executioner and educator of the world. I don't appreciate it when people point out the stupid crap I'm doing. So I do not do that unless I'm directly asked for an opinion on something to other people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I feel like I've settled down quite a bit because, like, early in recovery, it's like, yeah, I'm sure that you understand how that feels early in recovery. You just want to tell everyone because you've learned this incredible information, and then you get out there and
Exactly.
nobody wants to hear it. And you're like, but, but,
But
but,
dude,
right,
yeah,
exactly.
it doesn't have to suck so bad.
Right? If you would just listen to me. But I've settled down on
Yes,
doing that. It's probably part of the reason why I slowed down on the podcast and stuff too for a while, because I don't want to be like that know it all kind of person, because I'm really not. I'm just like everybody else.
I'm learning.
Uh,
I'm learning. As I'm learning better, I'm doing better.
Right? As I'm
And that's
learning
really
better,
it.
I'm learning to shut up more.
Well, and put our own oxygen mask on first. And I'm understanding in my old age that there's seasons for everything. And I have seasons in my life and seasons in my recovery. And it's really funny that you reached out to me this week because I got to do some fun stuff with some sponsees this week. Got to volunteer at a completely unrelated event and got to go for a walk. And I'm getting excited about my recovery again. And that's perfect because it's right before summer. So there's going to be lots of fun shit to do. But I go through periods, seasons. I go seasons where I'm real into the relationship with my divine architect, and I'm really into the literature, and I'm really like doing lots of service work at my meetings and that kind of stuff. And then I have seasons where I'm like, let's go, bring the matchy t-shirts, let's do this, where I'm carrying the flag at the front of the parade and let's give everybody a chance at recovery. And both of them are just as necessary for my spiritual growth. And I can enjoy them while they last and respect that it is just a season. It'll come, it'll go, and it'll come again.
I don't like being stuck in bad seasons, though. My mom refers to it as swimming and coming up for air. It's like, oh, you're coming up for air again rather than wallowing in it. It's like, yeah, it feels good to come up for air once in a while.
Yeah, it does. But would you appreciate the sweet things if you hadn't tasted the bitter of the being just stuck in it?
I wouldn't know what happiness was if I hadn't ever experienced the opposite.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people forget that, and I forget that too. It's like you have to go through all these you don't have to go through horrific things, but horrific things that happen to you help
Yeah,
shape who you are later down the
and
road.
exactly. And that's the beauty of recovery is teaching us resilience. That you're a tougher nugget than you thought, and you can hold on tighter to the beautiful things in your world and let go easier of the things that were not fair, were not right, and were not good. I want to still have wonder and awe at the world. I still want to see the beauty in every stupid little thing. I want to look up in the sky and see all the little, what is it, cottonwood trees, or the snow globe in the middle of summer with the sun shining through it. I want that for my soul.
Yeah, I want peace and tranquility for my soul. And it happens
It
from
comes,
time to time. Like there's days where I'm in, or sometimes even weeks where I'm in a really good place. It's like, yeah, life's great, life's great, life's great. And then all of a sudden the bottom drops out. It's like, oh, here we go again.
yeah. Do you find that it's easier to bounce out of those the longer you're in recovery?
Um, I'm not sure. I've always been a logical thinker my whole life, so I try to logic my way out of a lot of stuff, and that doesn't always help either. But
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
it at times it gets harder and harder to pull myself out of that space, and that gets scary when it gets harder to pull myself out of that space.
What is like your fail safe? Like, this is when I'm pulling my second parachute ripcord.
Um, what do I do to get out of it? I don't know. I this time I reached out to people, and I usually don't do that. Um,
Yeah.
I'm more of like an isolated kind of person, and I guess I've isolated myself for my whole life, so talking to other people is just weird to me. Like, I
Yeah.
have my people at work, and that's about all the
Yeah.
communication I have.
How many brothers and sisters do you have, and where are you in the birth order?
I have I'm the middle child. I have one older sister and one younger brother.
Okay.
So
Usual,
my
because I am also a middle child, and I am a typical middle child in that I really extroverted hard outside of my family of origin and found my tribe outside of my family. They're a blast. And if you ever want to play cards, dude, we got you. But for me, I did a very typical middle child thing and found my tribe elsewhere.
Pretty much, yeah. I always felt like I was like the black sheep of the family. I know I wasn't the black sheep, but that's just how I felt like I didn't belong there. It's like there's my sister, the firstborn, and there's my brother because he's the boy, and then there's me.
Yes.
And I'm just kind of there and just taking up space.
I would disagree. I would say that, there is the extraordinary gift of not having all of the pressure of being the firstborn or the only boy. That frees up a lot of bandwidth for being whatever your soul is going to be.
I suppose, yeah. I was always wrapped up in myself and never paid attention to anything else going on around me. And I feel like that sometimes, like I'm just encased in my own little bubble and nothing can touch me, and those are great times.
Yeah,
So, do you have
it's
anything
nice.
else to add about resentments or regrets or anything like that?
I would say that try to set down your resentments as fast as you can because they're hot and they're going to burn you. And regret, I use as a call to action because I can't undo it. I mean, there's lots of stuff. My ex-husband, I was super shady about for a long time, and he's been dead now for almost 5 years, or no, it's closer to 6. And I regret my behavior around that. And so I am better to the people around me now. And I had a best friend for 35 years that I was a horrible friend to at the end when I was in my active alcoholism. She stopped speaking to me, and it's been 15 years, and we were friends for close to 40. And I can't ever get that friendship back because of my own behavior. And I guess my regret, I was a shady friend. And so what do I do different? The people that I'm friends with now, in and out of recovery, I treat with dignity and respect and don't talk garbage behind anybody's back and don't have an opinion on how they're living their life. You know, regret is a place where I can see that I need to work on my spiritual growth and my behaviors, my beliefs, my attitudes, and my actions. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Of course, I'm in recovery too, so a lot of
Yeah.
things make sense. But to the people who
Yeah.
are not in recovery, like this is all a foreign concept, and it's so sad.
That's yeah, but if they're listening to this and they can hear it, they can find there I think all of us are seekers in one way or another. And if you're suffering enough and you want it to be different, if you're listening to this, you want it different, it can be different.
I like that. You have the choice to make it different. It's all in your
Yeah.
head. All of it. It's
Yeah.
in your head.
Oh yeah. I hope you have an absolutely lovely Saturday.
All right, you too. I don't want to keep you from your next meeting or anything like that. Thanks for
Yep.
talking with me.
My pleasure. And if you ever just, want to have cat talk like off the clock, you totally can because I will send you a picture of my ridiculous Fergus.
Yeah, I'll have to send you a picture of the 3 that we have here.
Absolutely. So you have a wonderful day, Jen. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
In closing, I would like to say that the opinions expressed here were strictly of my own making or by my guests. Take what you like and leave the rest. You may come to realize that you may not like me or what I want to share. Let's talk to each other, reason things out, but let there be no gossip or criticism of one another. Instead, let the fellowship of ethical human behavior and the serenity from positive human interaction help you grow and chill out, one experience at a time. I would like to thank my higher power for guiding me through this podcast. I hope to spread the message of love, hope, and understanding by touching one life at a time. If you like this podcast, please like, comment, and share it. Comments may help other struggling people find it. If you would like to share feedback, you can email me at averagehumanbeing1875@gmail.com. If you would like me to read your email on the air, please let me know. There is also a link you can click if you'd like to send a voice message and add to the content of the show. Okay, there we go. Let's stop sharing. Okay, as of today, as of right now, the podcast is all transferred over to YouTube. So it's time to start creating new content, whether that'll be on YouTube or Spotify. I don't know yet. I'm probably going to continue to use both. I don't know why. Actually, I do know why, because some people don't want to be on camera and it's a lot easier to share your message if your face isn't attached to it. And that's why I started the podcast the way that I did, because I wasn't confident enough to share myself to the world. And I'm starting to get over that. Not that I want fame or fortune, because that's not what I'm looking for. It's really not. What I'm looking for is to connect people, to share messages, and by one person at a time having some kind of awakening or new understanding of the world around them, and then passing that information on to another person. That is my goal. Okay, so take care, and who knows what the next episode is going to be? I don't. We'll all find out together. All right, bye-bye. Have a great day.